There are places on this earth where maps end and legends begin. Hidden deep within the mountains lies Black Pine Forest, a place so ancient that even the oldest trees seem to whisper forgotten names. The towering pines have stood undisturbed for centuries, their branches forming a dense canopy that allows only thin beams of sunlight to reach the forest floor. Thick fog drifts endlessly between the trees, swallowing every sound and every path. For generations, local communities have warned travelers to stay away from these woods. Many dismissed those stories as superstition until people began disappearing. Over the years, hikers, campers, and explorers entered Black Pine Forest, never to be seen again. No one could explain what happened to them. No bodies were ever recovered. No evidence ever pointed to an answer. Only silence remained. On an ordinary autumn afternoon, 4 experienced hikers arrived at the entrance of Black Pine Forest. They were well prepared, carrying backpacks filled with supplies, GPS devices, cameras, flashlights, food, and enough equipment to survive for several days. They joked with one another as they stepped onto the narrow trail, excited by the beauty of the wilderness that stretched before them. The forest appeared peaceful. Towering pine trees surrounded them. Birds sang high above the canopy, and a cool breeze carried the scent of damp earth through the air. They paused often to admire the scenery and capture photographs, unaware that every step was taking them farther away from the world they knew. Hidden somewhere beyond the drifting fog, something ancient had already begun watching them as the afternoon faded into evening. The hikers ventured deeper into the forest. They laughed together, stopped to rest, and continued taking photographs of the breathtaking landscape. None of them noticed the impossibly tall figure standing motionless between the trees. It never spoke. It never moved. It simply watched. By sunrise the following morning, all 4 hikers had vanished without leaving a trace. Search teams later discovered their backpacks lying abandoned along the trail. Their cameras remained exactly where they had fallen. Water bottles, trekking poles, and personal belongings were scattered across the forest floor, untouched. There were no signs of violence, no footprints leading away from the scene, and no indication that anyone had left the forest alive. It was as though the hikers had simply ceased to exist. News of the mysterious disappearance spread quickly across the country. Police officers, rescue teams, and volunteers searched every kilometer of Black Pine Forest. Search dogs followed trails that suddenly ended without explanation. Drones scanned the forest from above but found nothing unusual beneath the thick canopy. Helicopters circled overhead while investigators interviewed local residents. Yet no one could offer an explanation. Days passed without a single clue. Eventually, veteran rescue ranger Daniel Hayes volunteered to continue the search. With more than 20 years of experience finding missing hikers in some of the most dangerous wilderness areas, Daniel believed every mystery left behind a trail. He trusted his instincts, his training, and the technology he carried. What he did not realize was that Black Pine Forest followed rules unlike any place he had ever known. Several hours into his search, Daniel discovered the first abandoned camera lying beneath wet leaves beside the trail. Surprisingly, the memory card still worked. Curious, he scrolled through the photographs until he reached the final image. At first, nothing appeared unusual. It showed the familiar hiking trail disappearing into the dense forest. Then Daniel noticed something standing between 2 distant pine trees. The figure was impossibly tall and unnaturally thin, barely visible through the fog. Assuming it was another hiker, he continued searching. A short distance later, he found a second camera. Once again, the final photograph revealed the same mysterious figure, but this time it stood noticeably closer. Daniel's curiosity slowly turned into unease. Moments later, he recovered a third camera. The figure had moved closer still. Every photograph had been taken only minutes apart. Yet the distance the figure had covered should have been impossible. No human being could have moved that quickly without being seen. Daniel attempted to contact the search team using his handheld radio. Only loud static answered him. He checked his GPS, but the screen displayed only two chilling words: nitrogen monoxide signal. Confused, he retraced his steps, only to discover that the trail he had followed moments earlier had disappeared. Every direction now looked identical. Every tree seemed the same. Every shadow merged with the fog until the forest became an endless maze. It felt as though Black Pine Forest itself had quietly shifted around him, trapping him within its ancient embrace. Then Daniel discovered another abandoned camera. As he opened the final photograph, his heart nearly stopped. The image showed him standing alone on the trail only moments earlier. He had no memory of anyone taking the photograph. Worse still, standing directly behind him was the same towering figure. Daniel had never seen it. Yet somehow, it had been only a few feet away. A sharp crack echoed through the forest. Daniel spun around. At first, he saw nothing except drifting fog weaving between the ancient pines. Then, slowly emerging from the mist, the figure revealed itself. Nearly 10 feet tall, impossibly thin, with arms that stretched far below its knees. It stood perfectly motionless between two massive trees. Its face remained completely hidden beneath unnatural darkness. There were no eyes, no mouth, no expression. It neither breathed nor blinked. It simply watched. Daniel instinctively raised his flashlight, directing the powerful beam toward the figure. For a single brief moment, the light illuminated its impossible silhouette. Then Daniel blinked. The figure had vanished. Panic began to creep into his thoughts. He searched the surrounding trees, his breathing growing heavier. When he looked forward once more, the figure had returned. This time, it was much closer. Every instinct Daniel possessed told him to run. He sprinted through the forest, his boots pounding against the muddy trail while branches scraped across his jacket. Thick fog swallowed everything beyond a few meters. Every path he followed seemed to lead deeper into the forest rather than towards safety. The towering pines appeared to close around him, transforming familiar landmarks into an endless labyrinth. His flashlight began flickering violently, its beam growing weaker with every passing second until darkness slowly consumed the trail ahead. Exhausted, Daniel stopped and slowly turned around. Only a few steps behind him stood the towering figure. It had never chased him. It had never made a sound. Somehow, it had simply known exactly where he would be. The following morning, search teams returned to Black Pine Forest after losing all communication with Daniel Hayes. They discovered his backpack, flashlight, ranger hat, radio, and camera lying neatly along the trail. There was no sign of a struggle, no footprints, no blood. Daniel Hayes had vanished just as the 4 hikers had before him. Investigators recovered the camera and examined its final photograph. It showed Daniel standing alone on the forest trail, staring directly toward the camera. Standing only a few feet behind him was the same impossibly tall figure. Silent, motionless, watching. 3 weeks later, authorities officially closed the investigation. Their final report blamed poor visibility, difficult terrain, and disorientation caused by the dense forest. Black Pine Forest was declared safe once again, and before long, hikers slowly returned. Families explored its trails. Nature photographers admired its breathtaking scenery. Campers spent nights beneath the towering pines. Most never noticed the silent figure standing far beyond the trees, patiently watching every visitor who entered its domain. Only last month, another experienced hiker ventured into Black Pine Forest. Throughout the day, they uploaded dozens of photographs to social media, documenting their journey through the ancient woods. Then, without warning, every transmission stopped. Search teams recovered only one final image from the abandoned camera. Authorities have refused to release the photograph to the public. However, according to those who have seen it, the figure is no longer standing in the distance. This time, it is looking directly into the camera. Perhaps, some legends are created merely to frighten children. Others exist to warn us of dangers we cannot understand. So if you ever find yourself walking alone through Black Pine Forest, and an overwhelming feeling tells you that someone is watching from somewhere beyond the trees, trust that instinct. But whatever you do, don't look back, because whatever watches you wants you to look.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe to Nightfall Studios, where every shadow tells a story. We'll see you in the next nightmare.